What's up, you guys? Welcome to another edition of our Backstage Pass. I'm super excited about tonight because we have a special edition with two of my very favorite people, Sean and Carrie. They got married this past fall, and today we are dishing all the things. They are telling us everything and everything about their wedding planning during a pandemic. Sean, Carrie, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, I cannot wait for you to tell everybody your journey. And I think one of the things I'm most excited about is when everything happened, last spring and summer, I said to myself, okay, Kristen, there's no rules for this. What the heck are we going to do? And so I was like, well, I'm just going to go live and I'm going to post things online and I'm not going to stop because, I put myself in your shoes and I'm like, what would I want right now? And for me, that was assurance. And so I really enjoyed all of our DMs back and forth every weekend when I would post stuff and you would be like, how was the wedding? I was like, oh my God, it was so good. And like, they did this. So, definitely one of my favorite DM conversations of 2020. So guys, once again, welcome Sean and Carrie. They actually got married October 2020 at the Mission Inn Resort. So they were right at smack dab in the middle of all of this. And we were talking behind the scenes, and one of the things they shared with me was that they got engaged in summer of 2019. And basically by what? Was it November you guys had started wedding planning?
Yeah, we had everything done by January of 2020. Everything was set.
Yeah.
Everything, venue, all your vendors, all the things, right?
Yep. I think the DJ was one of the last things that we chose. Yep. We had everything except for our tasting and everything, but our vendors were all chosen.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about that wedding planning journey for you guys leading up to that, and then, kind of what transpired from there.
Leading up to choosing everything, we had a lot of fun with it. I think we really chose vendors that we connected with. We went to a couple bridal shows. We went with my parents to one, and from there, once we met, we kind of selected multiple vendors to talk to. And then once we had our one-on-one conversations, because it's different when you go to an expo and you meet those people, there's so much going on. And then you talk to someone on the phone and it's a totally different conversation. And I think that's how we narrowed it down. And it was pretty easy. I think DJ was the hardest because you never know music. The connection that music has with people is so big. And back in the day, my dad was like, oh, you could go to a wedding and listen to them. And I'm like, they don't do that anymore. You can't just go to someone's wedding and listen to the DJ.
Yeah.
But, seeing videos online and the different Spotify playlists and really talking to everyone at our DJ Rocks, we connected with them. And even though I don't think we talked to Gabby until closer to the wedding, everyone else was so wonderful. We're like, okay, if the 3 or 4 people we talked to, we connected with, Gabby would be just as amazing, I'm sure.
Yeah. And don't worry, we screenshotted everything to her every time we had a conversation. So she was a part of it the whole time. Sometimes you should see us. We're like, oh my God, look how cute. She's sending us this. And then we'll send a group text. And then we're like, oh my God, we love her. So don't worry, those conversations definitely happen for sure. I want to talk a little bit about, kind of let's say January 2020 to March 2020, because you guys had a lot more going on than just the pandemic itself. And I think it's really important, to share that because we're all going through stuff. You know what I mean? You're holding a full-time job, you're planning a wedding, maybe you're buying a house, but everybody's got a lot of stuff going on. So if you don't mind, share kind of with everybody what that kind of looked like. So wedding planning, donezo, check marked off the list, January 2020 hits and you're like, boom, I got it together. Okay, then what?
Then our company went bankrupt. We were working for a grocery chain. It was my dream job. I traveled for them and opened 22 of their stores. And then I opened their warehouse, and I wanted just to stay put. I didn't want to travel anymore. So I started with their warehouse. And during one of my openings, he started working, and he was the culinary manager at, would you work 2 or 3 different locations?
Yeah, it was several.
And then he opened some of the stores as well. He was so great. They were like, let's send him. So January, we got the notification that we were closing in a matter of weeks. I think it was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks notice, maybe a little longer than that, because they did sales to try and get rid of everything. But there wasn't much notice. So we found new jobs. He found an executive chef position, and I started working as a financial analyst for an accounting back office. So that was February. About February.
Guys, 30 days. So we got the wedding plan. Everything's good. We think we're ahead of schedule. Checked off the list.
It was crazy because 2019 was really hard health-wise. And then I'm like, 2020 is going to be great. First month of the year, and we lose our jobs. So that was February. And March 17th is when I got sent home to work from home. And then he was still at the restaurant, right? Mm-hmm. And then I had that job until July of 2020. And then I lost my job again. I was laid off. So I got another job working from home. It was very funny. It was the building next door to where I was working. So I returned my computer and then went next door and picked up my computer and continued working from home. And he went into pest control at that time and worked at a couple of restaurants in between. And then now he is at his job that he loves, and I'm at my job.
I love it. I mean, true resilience. And then in the middle of all that, what was it? It was the end of March, that and maybe people knew before me, but it wasn't until the end of March where I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. Wait, what? You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you even, and what does that even look like for you, in addition to all that, but also planning your wedding during, literally a global pandemic?
It was very different because usually you go and meet with your vendors and you're like, look at this flower arrangement I made, or let's talk about your song choices, or, come on this tour of the venue and we'll go over this. And we really didn't have that. I don't think it really started sinking in because everyone was like, oh, it's going to be a few months, or, this will be over, this will pass. And March, April, May, June, it kind of just started building. And then you start thinking like all of the plans that we had for bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, that wasn't going to happen anymore because, and then it was very strange to see everything that you had envisioned change, but it was nice too because we were in it together, and, as much as it sucked, it shows the bond that you have with your family and with him. And I was a ball of stress, but he definitely helped, answer questions as best he could and gave his input when he could. And, we took it a day at a time.
Isn't that crazy? Because guys, for those of you who are just joining us, remember, they planned and pretty much had everything solid by the end of 2019. The pandemic comes around 3 months later. All of a sudden, those plans are changing and things are just kind of up in the air. Honestly, and Carrie, tell me what your thoughts are. But like, as we were all kind of learning this and kind of working through it together, it's like at any given moment, the government could have said, nope, shut down. You know what I mean? So it's like, you almost have to find the blessings or like the light to kind of keep you going. Right. So, what would you say is one of your favorite things about that wedding planning process, particularly like the one that you guys were in? So like, give me something positive that came out of this.
A couple positives. One, I think we got to see a different side of vendors than most brides did in the past. because not only were we going through it, but they were. So they were more willing than ever to help however they could. Where in the past, some vendors could have been like, no, I'm sorry, this is our policy. Whereas now it's like, well, we don't know. Yes, let's work together and try and figure this out. So it was really great to be a part of the process with the vendors and with us. It just felt really collaborative. I would say the other thing is, I know it's really strange to say, but social media became so much more amazing for me and for him to, see our vendors doing like this live. We were talking earlier that I was watching this when it first came out and how much it helped me seeing, that things were still happening, that it wasn't just ending. And then I joined a few bridal support groups online, COVID brides and different things. And that was really wonderful because everyone would keep everyone updated about new restrictions and ideas that they had. And I think at one point I had shared with you on our website, we actually had a COVID tab. And a group of the girls, we all wrote like a paragraph or so of all the restrictions that we were thinking of doing. That's where the idea for the wristbands came from, was from that group. The personalized masks, that's where that came from. It really, those groups that I was a part of paved the way for what's happening now. And then little things like our registry. There was one where you dropped your registry on social media and someone bought you something. So one girl sent me a Starbucks card. One girl sent us our ice cream scooper, or I sent someone their garter set, just things. But the connections that you would have never made, I would have never looked for support groups online if this hadn't have happened. So that was really cool to see, the better side of social media.
I definitely agree because even too, like, even in our conversations, like I don't really feel, and maybe it's just because like I jumped in, or maybe it was my own kind of thought process, but like I was like, I want to connect with as many of our couples as I possibly can. And so to me, like the easiest way to do that was like engaging on social media. And I just remember, in all of like, you have like your community of like weddings and brides. I've got my community of like DJs and entertainment companies. And everybody was like, technically it's illegal, and like Florida was the only one open, and so a lot of people were like, we shouldn't be posting because what if later on down the road like someone sees it, and then like no one knew anything, right? And I made myself one promise, and if there was one thing that was going to come out of this, it was going to be to build deeper and meaningful relationships. And so like, again, I said it in the beginning, but like just being able to share that, and Carrie, if you were the only one watching, I didn't care. I was posting it for you.
Definitely wasn't, because we had our parents, my mom and dad were on it watching, like, you have to go on. These are the DJs, because put their mind at ease as well, because you're paying for, the vendor and they don't get to see it either.
Well, and I think too, maybe, and this is just kind of me putting myself in like, okay, if I was a bride, I'd be like, oh my God, wait, are they still going to be around? Or like, are they going out of business? So like, was that ever a concern for you guys at all? Or just like a thought that kind of went through your head?
It did. We had wedding insurance, but that didn't cover COVID. That was a restriction. It wasn't technically an act of God. So even though we got it, it wasn't covered. So we were very lucky that the vendors we had chosen were very established. And they were very vocal and very communicative. There wasn't just a cutoff of, no talking or no correspondence. I think that would have freaked me out more if they weren't responding to my emails, texts, but they weren't. They were posting more than ever and interacting on social media and doing lives, and it just, that helped, being able to see that they were still trying and they were still posting and putting their craft out there for everyone to see.
And honestly, too, like I think even one of the things this idea probably came from you, the wristbands, where it's like the green, yellow, red on like your comfortability with like, social distancing. And we still even use that. Like we just did an open house at our warehouse and we still do that to this day. So that was a brilliant idea. I don't know if that was totally original or just inspired amongst your group, but I loved it. What are some of the other things you guys did in addition to the masks and because you did custom masks, right?
We did. We had custom masks that said our names on them. We did. Another thing was in the bridal groups, they'd be like, "Hey, Amazon has a sale on hand sanitizer. Go!" And they put the link. So we were able to find miniature Purex or Germex, one of those. And then we had custom labels made. So it said "Spread love, not germs," and then our name and our date and everything. So he helped me with those, get those all ready. We did glow bracelets instead of wristbands, just so you could see them in the dark. We had Lysol wipes for all of this, anywhere that you used a pen for the guest book or anything. We worked with the vendors to make sure everyone was wearing gloves. We had at the bar, it was only a nude glass every time. New water glasses on the tables. We had everyone spaced. We had a bigger dance floor for the people so that people had more room to dance if they wanted to. Yeah.
I feel like you literally did all the things.
we did. We wanted our guests to understand that we were taking this seriously. And yes, we were having a social gathering during a pandemic, but we were going to do it right. And we were going to make sure that everyone was healthy and safe, the best of our abilities, because we wanted people to enjoy themselves. The year was so crazy, ending it on, something. I mean, some of my friends that came to the wedding, my family, they hadn't gone anywhere for.
Really haven't either.
We didn't either. We stayed, and that was the first time we really had a social gathering.
Yeah. And so when it came, like, so all these things you're implementing because you want your guests to know, like, I love you guys. I'm taking it seriously. I care. Here's what we're doing. You've got a COVID tab on your wedding website. How did you really get that message across so that they felt comfortable? And what I mean by that is, we do still have some couples who they're getting pushback from their friends and family, or like an RSVP will come in and like they might write a little note like, no, definitely not coming because #pandemic. So like, what would you recommend to them and how did you communicate to your guests so that they felt comfortable?
I think one of the main things we did was just be open, and you have questions, ask it. We put that on the save the dates that went out. We put it on our invitations. This is our wedding website. On the wedding website, it had, if you have questions, please let us know. We're constantly going to be updating the wedding website. Please check back with this. We wanted them to know that we understood that people are going to be uncomfortable, but we also wanted them to know if you don't come, we understand. Just let us know. And we weren't going to judge anyone for not coming, and we weren't going to be mad at them for not coming, but we put it out there, like, just let us know. And it is what it is. It's so hard to judge how people are going to react to it. And we weren't going to put our life, our love on hold just because someone might judge us for it. I know that sounds strange to say, but we had the support of our parents and my closest friends, and we knew that the people that wanted to be there and wanted to support us and the ones that weren't going to judge us were going to come. And that's what we focused on. We focused on the positive and the people that we really loved and wanted to be there, and they gave that love right back.
I love that. I think that is probably one of the most powerful things anyone could ever say. And so, what I want to ask you is, I know that everyone came to a crossroad at some point in 2020 where it's like, are we going to do this? How are we going to do it? How do we do it safely? There's, a list of like, let's say 10 kind of questions that roll around in your head. So ultimately, what made you guys decide to just keep your plans and move forward?
Um, I think after 2019 was hard for us, and you never know with someone's health what's going to be in the future. And we
Mhm.
didn't want to take that risk of someone we love not being there for it, whether it be virtually or in person. We didn't want to wait. We didn't want to not celebrate that and have the people that we loved be a part of it.
Oh my gosh, I think I'm gonna cry. Give me a tissue. I think that's how we kind of all look at weddings, right? But I think that a lot of things got put into perspective for a lot of people, with the personal things going on, and even the pandemic, and even the things that happened during the pandemic. Everything just got kind of put into perspective. So I want to ask you guys, because no one knew what we were getting into. There's no rule book for this. At our DJ Rocks, we kind of just went at it and was like, this is what feels right. Let's go. So, what would you say is the biggest thing that our DJ Rocks did to help you or support you or kind of put you at ease through everything?
One of the major things was answering questions. I cannot, there was a couple vendors that when I would email them, it would be, they would get back to me, but not in a time that we needed to not freak out. I don't expect I send an email and 20 seconds later someone responds, but 5 days, I would hope someone would respond. And I felt either through Instagram or on Facebook or through email, our DJ Rocks always was answering questions. When we had questions about adding things to the package, they were not only you guys sent prices, but you sent videos of what it would look like, ideas of, if it didn't fit into the budget, maybe this could, or I think that helped. And then the playlists. I had a lot of fun with the playlist that got sent out, just jamming out at my computer at home, listening to it and getting ideas for what songs we wanted to play. Because at that time we were doing the online planning tool. So we were like, oh, I have to remember that song. We want to play that one, or, oh yeah, that one. So that helped as well.
I love it. So talk to me a little bit about your vendors. So, what kind of level of flexibility would you, okay, so we're talking advice, right? So people who are watching, who are planning now, what would you tell them as far as expectations of like, where's kind of that give and take between the expectations of like what couples should be responsible for versus like a vendor?
Um, I think the first thing to think of is that the vendors are humans. They're not just a business. They have families, they have children, they have spouses, they have, people that are sick in their lives, things that are going on in their lives, and understanding that part of it and responding in a way that never negates the other person's feelings. But having an expectation of telling the vendor what you need. Don't beat around the bush. Say, this is what I need. Are you able to get it to me at this time? If no, then you have time to move on. But at least they're able to give you the answer that you need. And they have the expectation that you need it now. You have a time frame. They know exactly what you're looking for. I think for floral, for instance, I had all of my Pinterest pictures on a file ready to send every single time. They're like, what are your ideas? We'll get you quotes. Here. What are you thinking for this? Here. And I just would send it out. And we would go over different ideas or what we would want in the wedding. And if they asked us for the questions, we were ready for the answers and sending them right back. So if you take 5 days to respond to them, they're not going to really have an urgency in responding to you. So it goes both ways with vendors. You have to be just as flexible as they are.
Yeah, I love that, and I think that it's the same for vendors. Like I think there came a point in time where I was like, okay, we all just need to take a step back and just remind each other that like there's all these things going on and wedding planning, again, health stuff, family stuff. And so like we're all just human trying to figure it out together. You know what I mean? I do know too that there were some circumstances that were even further beyond people's control to where it was like, Florida was open, we're doing this thing, but like legit, we had one couple that I think it was don't quote me, but I think that okay, let's just do two couples. Like we have a lot of couples from the UK and they literally cannot fly in even though, we were open. So if someone had no other option but to postpone, what advice would you give them?
Don't be discouraged. As much as the vision of your day may change, it's gonna be amazing. I mean, our vision ended up being different than I think we started with, but I mean, it was perfect for what we wanted. It was everything that, and it had nothing to do with the vendors or the cloth or the colors or the venue. I mean, at the end, it was just him and I and our families and just celebrating. You're still going to have each other at the end of the day, and everything else, as stressful as it is, as crazy as it can be, in the end, you're just going to remember how happy you were that day and not the color of the china or, it just, yeah.
Which all of that is important because we want pretty pictures. But like, you're right. At the end of the day, like once you've planned all the pretty things, now we just need to like live in the moment.
Yeah. And postponing doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Maybe there's a reason that, you were able to save up more money for what you wanted. You were struggling that you had to cut corners for the special day, but now you don't have to, or another venue opens that you weren't expecting to open and it's your dream. There's so many things that can happen in that time, and you can only do what you can do. You can't stress about and I understand. I'm a stressor.
Same.
You try to control as much as you can, and if you can't, you stress out. But at some point, you kind of just have to be okay with what happens.
Yeah, for sure. And I do know I think the thing I'm seeing the most right now is just pressure from like friends and family for our couples. So like, you and Sean always went into this with a great mindset, super positive, and like you knew your purpose. And at the end of the day, your purpose was to be married and celebrate, and nothing was going to come in between that. But there are outside circumstances and there are influences from friends and family. So like, did you have any, or did you feel any pressure from friends and family, and how did you handle that? And what advice would you give couples who might be going through that?
Honestly, we were very lucky. He and I are very strong-willed, honest people. So if you don't like what I have to say, don't ask me. And they know that I'm very strong, that you can't control what I do. So that kind of for me was, but when you do have it, you just have to talk to each other and surround yourself with the people that do have the positives. I mean, my bridesmaids were amazing. When I was stressing and I just called them just to vent, they knew that I didn't need answers. They just knew I needed to talk about it with someone,
Yep.
I would talk about it with him, and I would, talk about it with my parents, and they were stressed. I mean, my dad has had heart infections and double bypass and, all sorts of stuff. So his health was at risk. And so he was stressing, but, just talking to each other and knowing that they can express those feelings to me. And I mean, we were all very open. I think you have to be strong in yourself, and you have to be ready for those kind of things, because I mean, people are going to talk. It's just what it is. But it's a hard one, because you don't want to hear that from the people that you love or the people you felt were so close to you. But I mean, showing your true colors sometimes is the best way to see people.
I love that. I love that. Carrie, Sean, do you guys have any regrets?
No, I don't think. No, I don't think we have one regret. Not a single one. No, we still watch our wedding video and cry and look at our wedding photos, and I mean, everything was exactly what we wanted.
I love it.
We didn't get the honeymoon yet.
Yeah, we didn't get a honeymoon.
It's okay. Didn't we talk about earlier how we were saving more money for a better stuff? So that's what we're doing, right?
We planned
That's
three
coming
of
later
them.
this year.
Hopefully, we've planned 3 of them. We've canceled quite a few. So, we do little staycations together instead. But yeah, no regrets about the wedding or anything like that.
I love it. I love it. So we've got a few more minutes left. And I got just a couple more questions for you guys. For anybody who is starting this wedding planning process right now or is going through it, where they're choosing venues, vendors, and things like that, what advice would you give to someone who is on the fence about having their wedding now, or like, let's say in the next 6 months versus like 2022, basically now or later? What advice can we give them?
Pros and cons lists are great. Why, really think about, why do you want to get married now? What is the reason you're postponing it? Is it because other people are asking you to? Is it because you're having pressure from the outside? Why do you want to get married now? Is there a reason you're rushing it? There's positives and negatives to both of them, and you just have to find out which one outweighs it. For us, we knew there was a point where it was just like, nope, this is happening, and also, a lot of the women that were in the bridal groups I was in saying, in 6 months, who knows what it's going to be like. There were some of them saying in 2021, it might just be as bad as it is in 2020. And I mean, it's not as bad, but there are still all the restrictions that were last year as well. So there's no telling what 2022 will be like or what the end of this year will be like. You just have to be ready for whatever it is going to be.
I agree. And I almost look at it and I say, you know what? Like, if you guys can get through this, there is nothing that your marriage isn't going to be able to withstand for the rest of your lives. And I if I look at it that way, it gives me that much more like, yes, go Carrie and Sean.
For sure. I mean, he was unemployed for a month or so. I was working from home while we were trying to plan a wedding and knowing that our vision wasn't going to be exactly what we want. That's a lot of stress to put on, couples. And it made us even more of a force to be reckoned with.
Amen, you guys. I love it. I love it. Okay, so last question. I have to ask this because there might be people who watch this that are unsure if RDJ Rocks is the right fit for them. So what advice would you give couples who are looking to book RDJ Rocks? And go.
I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened at the wedding that kind of solidified it for me. I don't know if you were there, but I was
at the wedding.
You were at the wedding? You were there? My matron of honor was getting her caricature done. So she was outside, but I needed my dress bustled for our first dance. And my dress had 22 loops. And she was the only one that had seen it done. So my planner and her assistant were underneath my dress. And DJ Gabby was holding parts of my dress. And then the attendant, I apologize, I don't know her name, she was also under there trying to hand them pieces and loops. And I had someone standing in front of me with a silver platter of food as I'm eating, and that just did it. That they stopped what they did to make sure that I was ready for my moment when they still had things to do. I mean, it was instant when I talked to, you on the phone or through messaging, or when I talked to Jesse on the phone. I mean, it was an instant connection. You have to go with how you feel, because that was, especially in this time where you don't get to meet people in person, you have to go with how you feel about talking to someone. There were so many vendors I talked to where I felt pressured, where they were like, oh, you have to sign the contract and here you got da, 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 da. You know, especially with a wedding date like 10/10/2020. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
even though during a pandemic, it was a popular date.
Yeah.
But I just felt at ease. Then that was how we chose our vendors. It's like, how did you feel about them? I really liked them. I liked what they had to say. I felt comfortable with them. I felt like I was talking to my friend, and that's how we chose. And that was, I mean, the greatest decision. It was so awesome.
I love it. I'm choking up on here. I'm trying not to cry because I'm about to have to wrap this up. But I just want to say, guys, thank you so, so much. You are, I'm going to cry. You're just another reason why all of us continue to do what we do. You bring us so much joy, and we love creating these moments. And I absolutely enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for giving all of our couples this advice. I can't wait to share it with everybody. Is there any last things that we didn't cover that you want to throw out there or add or anything else?
I think just enjoy the ride. It's going to be bumpy. There's going to be curves. There's going to be obstacles, but just enjoy every minute of it, because the saying of "it flies," I mean, it flies. I did not believe anyone that said it, and I was like, it's such a cliche, but it flew. It flew. But enjoy it. Enjoy it.
It really did. Thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for another episode of Backstage Pass. And we will see you next time. Bye, guys.